I'm glad that we have Andrew Hawkins in with us today because I'm more confused, Tony, today than I was yesterday because you told me that last night was a who's who game. And I think the loser's a who, and I don't think the loser can be a who. I think the loser always is left off of who. You can only be a who in a who's game if you win the who.
Yeah, but the thing is, even if Detroit lost, we know they're a who. So Packers losing actually gets me a little bit closer to who than it does going away from who. And everybody was back here was like, what are they talking about? I was like, I get Dan. I know what he's trying to say. The Packers, the reason why, Mike, it was a who's who game, right? So I wanted to see the Packers come out, be that who. We know the Lions are who. We need the Packers to see if they're who. Now, in that game, we saw the Packers do some stuff to the Lions that other teams haven't been able to do. Yes, they lost, but still part of the who category.
All right, Dr. Seuss.
What the hell are we talking about?
Who's who game, Hawk? You know that.
A who's who game?
Yeah, who's who game.
Meaning like...
We're going to figure out who's who.
We're going to figure out who's who.
Exactly.
What do you mean meaning like? What do you don't know what a who's who game? What kind of professional athlete are you? What do you mean you don't know what
we don't talk in who's who.
We find out. Last night there was a game played between the teams we think are good. We're sure about one of them.
So who's him?
Cindy Lou Who.
Stop with the pronouns. There's no hims or hers here. It's just who's.
Oh, there were some hims out there.
A lot of
Josh
him.
Jacobs
Sewell
was
is
him.
Yeah.
He was him. Gibbs was him.
Jared Goff.
Him?
Dan
There was-
Campbell is him.
Dan Campbell.
He is El.
Well, dub.
He's a him.
You guys don't understand what I'm asking you. Mike and Jessica seem confused. Tony said it was a who's who game, which means if Green Bay goes to Detroit and beats Detroit, clearly they're a who. But they didn't beat Detroit.
No,
They lost to Detroit.
No, again, the more I see Detroit, the more I think that team desperately needs a loss. Yeah. It's a bad game to
need
win.
one.
They need a loss.
They need a level set.
Yep.
Just to kind of, bring them down to earth.
Look, is this team just going to lose one game all season? They need the little wake-up call.
Yeah.
They need the wake-up call.
Been there. Humbled. I was humbled a couple times in my career.
Well, you play for the Browns.
Yeah, like 16 games in a season. Like just every week where by Wednesday I'd be like, you know what? I think I'm who.
How do you?
By Sunday it was right back to
That
reality.
team set a record for wake-up calls in a season.
They were like, who?
Who?
Why?
Cleveland's basically just Whoville.
It is. We are Whoville for sure. Bunch of Grinches. Oh, yeah. No, I think are we saying the Packers aren't good? Is that?
No, they're good.
They're like good. I'm not.
They're
They're
who?
good.
They're who? They're who?
You
Are
can't
they
be
like-
a who when you lose.
You can though, Dan.
They
Exactly.
covered.
Can.
They covered.
And great teams.
If you're a Packers fan, you leave that game like, oh, we got a chance because the Lions have been the best team in the NFL for the entirety of the season. So when you go in that game and you go down early and it doesn't go the way that you want it, and still you didn't play your best game. Jordan Love had some throws. He was off balance. He started to show some of that, yo, bro, you can't take that kind of risk in this situation at times. And they still battled. Josh Jacobs, the whole squad. You got a chance.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the wake up, let out the sheets. We can't go out, motherfucker, get by peace. We take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Not so tough, but mans keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch me, please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
Is there any particular reason, Mike Ryan, that you just hit the breaking news sound in my own private headset and then started reading off news to just me and not the audience? Is there any reason that you did that, interrupting my train of thought before we started the show?
Well, I didn't tell the audience because we weren't on the air, but I'll tell the audience right now. As reported by the Bill Simmons podcast, Jesse the Body Ventura is returning to the WWE announce table to call Saturday night's main event on NBC. This is a lot of people's childhood, having Jesse the Body Ventura on NBC calling Saturday night's main event. Thought once unthinkable. Jesse Ventura is back.
Speaking of unthinkable, the way he delivered that news in my headset was to say Jesse Ventura confirms. I'm like, what did Trump do now?
Yeah, I thought it was the cabinet. I was like, let's see what the body's going to do.
In the last oral history episode, we did a supercut, and our interview with Jesse Ventura was included. Not that shocking anymore. His conspiracy theory wasn't really a conspiracy theory. It was that the Saudis funded 9/11. But we felt the need to push back. Whoa, you can't. And then, like, a couple of years later, that doesn't look too kooky. Credit to this country for looking like a lot crazier since that interview happened.
I am thankful that Andrew Hawkins is here today again after another magical Thursday night game. I don't know if I'm oversharing here, Hawk, so you tell me, because you're a businessman now. And we were leaving the other day, and I was lamenting as we were leaving. I'm like, I don't know how to lead. I don't know. I don't know how to lead. And your response is some form of, nobody does.
That's a fact.
Well, you say that's a fact, but I don't think that when we watch Dan Campbell right now, the reason I want to analyze this with you is because I really am fascinated, because I know all of the history here. Not just Lions are a laughing stock eternally.
Yeah.
Their fans are going to be nuts about this team because it's so rare for them to have expectations. And the man who leads them was a fool in Miami. Like, we made fun of Man Campbell so much.
Yeah, that's a youth thing.
He was the interim head coach.
That was a youth thing. You're always like, these hoorah leaders. That's not a real thing. And the Dolphins were bad at the time. It was a no-win position. You ended up being wrong. You could capitulate. Yeah. A real leader of men is like Jesse Ventura, because he actually got blackballed from the WWE because he tried to start a union. And Vince McMahon was like, you're not doing that. But then he became governor and he realized he could make more money, so he brought him in to referee SummerSlam in New York.
Nice.
You remember that one. I believe it was Undertaker, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
It was a who's who match.
Yeah. We found out who was that one. So now he's back and it's great. I'm so happy.
How's that union coming?
It still hasn't happened yet.
Okay, just wanted to double check back in on
And then
that.
they partnered up with the company that owns the UFC, and they're like, we are going to be so good at not allowing unions.
It's like you're talking about doubling down on no unions?
Jessica, you look sad. Is it because Mike Ryan and Jesse Ventura and the WWE seem to be against unions? You're pro-union. I'm pro-union.
Are you pro-union, Hawk?
I was in a union, the Players Association. I was a union rep.
A lot of pro-union people here, Dan. Yeah. I'm sad because I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. I went to the opening of Jimmy Butler's new coffee brick and mortar in the Design District. The espresso martinis were flowing.
Wow.
So I'm easing into my morning today.
Traffic, a lot of bad traffic. Was it terrible to get there and back? Yeah, it must have been terrible, right? I got stuck behind a fire truck and neither of us could move yesterday. And he's like asking me to move with his siren. I'm like, I can't move. I'm trying to move. That's a lot of fun, to spend 40 minutes with just a fire truck behind you just making siren sounds.
Can't get to a fire, and you're just like, what do you want me to do? Sorry.
We're just stuck in traffic. What do you do if you're a fire truck and none of the
You
traffic
got to at least veer a little to the right.
No,
show that you're making an effort here.
That's
Sorry,
a
you
real
see me.
who's who.
You see me.
Dan
I'm
versus
to
the
the
fire
right here.
truck.
My bumper's up against the side of the wall here. I can't go any further.
So what happens? What does does they get out of the fire truck?
People die.
You get out and you're like, how can I help?
With
you
the
get out
lights
of your
on?
car. You gotta.
It wasn't an emergency situation though, right? It was not.
It was, yes. Those are when the fire truck is hitting the sirens.
wow.
You get out and you be like, I'll go check, and you just like run away from your car just to make it look like you're helping.
We can switch cars.
He never
Take mine.
turned off the siren. Like, it was to alert me that it's an emergency, and he was just I've never seen it before. It's not something. I don't know if, like, what do you do if because it's a 2-lane highway, it was a 2-lane street and nobody could move off to the sides, and there was just nothing moving. And I'm legitimately asking you, I'm sitting in traffic trying to figure out, I've never seen this scenario before. I can't move, he can't move. I'm in the way of somebody who needs desperate emergency help, and this fire truck cannot move.
There was a lot of people that day that saw things they didn't expect to see, apparently, because this fire truck was stuck in traffic.
I've never been in a spot where I couldn't move a little bit. That would be, I would in that point get out of my car. How can I help? I can't move. How can I help?
Now you're just somebody standing in traffic, not
I take
helping.
like 2 cups of water and I just start running forward from my car. Like,
You said this was yesterday, Dan. I Googled it. It doesn't look like there were any fires. Yes, if this was 2 days ago, though, ooh.
No, it was yesterday. It was right here under the bridge, under here.
Could have been a rescue. Not all fire engines are responding to a fire.
Probably a cat in a tree.
Or
it's ducks, honestly. My brother-in-law is a firefighter, and I make fun of him all the time for like what he's going to get a cat out of a tree. He's like, no, it's a duck in the drains.
Wow, now that's leadership.
So
what a hero.
Let's get back. Thank you for bringing me back here.
Did Hawk say no one's a good leader? Weren't you in the Patriots camp for a little bit?
I was, and I'm like, there's no leadership here. I'm out of
Really?
here.
You had Tom Brady and
It's
Bill
why I
Belichick.
retired. I couldn't find the leadership in New England.
Dan, does that make you feel better?
Well, I want to explore this with him because Dan Campbell might stop me on the idea whether Man Campbell was a fool here or not. He was a lovable caveman. We certainly didn't think that we'd be looking up in a few years and, hey, Belichick can't get a job, has to try in college. But you know who the best coach in the NFL is? Man Campbell, because he's not afraid of anybody. He's going for it on 4th down. And I want to talk to Hawk about the idea, I'm going to say the illusion of leadership, because what's happened here is this is a great team, and the coaching is important. The offensive coordinator is great, and this guy's passion is also great. But it'll get called leadership now, whether it is leadership or not, because they've lost one game. So you tell me, Hawk, what you do with Dan Campbell after the game here.
Just
I told you you'd never forget this game. You will never forget this game. We don't have to talk about how tough we are. We don't have to talk about how resilient we are. We live it, man. We've been living it. Where's our defense at? Offense, that's the way to step up, man. That's the way to step up. There you go, Skip. Keep throwing up, whatever you're doing over there. Freaking land on the line. Guys, I'm so freaking proud of you, man. That's the way to show up. You talk about pressure, we live in pressure. That's where we freaking thrive. You did it again. You did it again. All right? It doesn't matter who's playing for us. It doesn't matter what's going on. You always find a way to win. That's what champions do. This is not happenstance, man. This doesn't just happen. This has been in the making, man. This has been in the making. All right, we are all supposed to be here together, man. We're destined for this. Just stay the course.
that is a classic dopamine addiction, is what you're looking at there.
It's me every time I hang out with my high school friends at a bar.
Is it good leadership?
So here's what my point is about nobody knows how to lead. The people who can get people to follow them are just being themselves. And naturally you gravitate to something that somebody is born with. So anytime that I've been around someone who is like faux trying to show leadership, I sense it. It doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel like you. Dan Campbell was the right amount of dumb. That's what's special about him. Why would you go for it there? Just kick the field goal and logically put your team out there who all the guys you said will step up, and they continually step up. Trust them with 40-something seconds left. But he has his gut feeling. He rides with it because it's every bit of his action aligns with who he's always shown himself to be to his team. They're like, okay, is this what we're doing? Then let's go.
Well, okay, that's interesting you should say that, because I sat down. I had one of the great compliments of my career yesterday, like really high on the list. I got to sit down with Mike Miller and Udonis Haslam on their OG podcast, which I really like. And the way they talked about me sort of just caught me entirely off guard. I was really surprised. And somewhere in there, they were valuing authenticity, and I appreciate it from them because both of them were so authentic throughout the entirety of their careers. But one of the things that they said that I was surprised by, and you tell me whether this is surprising to you at all. We were talking about from 2010 through 2014, those Miami Heat teams. So much fun for us to watch. And I'm looking at them, and both of them are like, yeah, there was no joy there. that was 4 years of no joy. Like we'd win at the end, and that was great, but no joy because the pressure of the expectations. That team now has those expectations. They look like they're having fun. Do you even understand what I'm saying there? Because I was stunned to hear those guys say that those 4 years, as joyous as any we've ever had in sports, they're like, no, the pressure was too much. It was too much every day. It was what was happening around us was not fun. None of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've seen that situation. I understand that. That's what expectation does. Now, I will say the Lions don't feel that way now because they're kind of at the beginning of that arc, and they're still the Lions. That even this year, for when you watch them on tape, how much better they are than other teams. I mean, they beat people down at times. They are talented at every position on both sides of the ball, even after losing probably their best player in Aiden Hutchinson. But still, there's this little tick that says that the Lions and people aren't quite opted in yet, Tony.
And the other thing, too, is they don't really have a bona fide superstar, right? When you talk about LeBron in the 2010 to 2014, like he was the villain of the world. He was the one superstar. The scrutiny, the microscope was always on him. D-Wade, Chris Bosh. You look at the Lions, you're like, Amon-Ra St. Brown's a nice story. He's a good player, but like he's not a bona fide superstar. You got Jared Goff, who was a cast out, went to the Super Bowl, ended up getting traded. They won a Super Bowl. Like, Aiden Hutchinson is probably one of their biggest stars, but like outside of that, like who do they have?
Dan Campbell, he's the superstar.
There you go, Skip. Keep throwing up, whatever you're doing over there.
The coach is a star.
That's an all-time lie.
As a recovering former Browns fan, they need a loss thing is a legit thing. I hate how good the vibes
The
are
Bears
right now.
tried to give them one. The Bears, and then they just were the Bears.
Now,
so.
I know you have to hurt. It's a little different in the NFL. In the NBA, you definitely have to have pain, and this franchise did have pain last year, the Brandon Ayuk catch in the NFC title game. But I don't know. There's just something that goes over this franchise and that sports town that I just back in my mind, I'm like, this isn't gonna work out. There's going to be some heartbreak. I'm fully hoping that the Super Bowl is Buffalo versus Detroit because both those teams have that. So at least one of those teams can shed it.
But the Detroit Lions, bro, are so good, Mike. I get what you're saying, and I've seen that in teams where it's like I would say that's more about the Chiefs more than anything. I think they're being tricked into thinking that they're the same Chiefs team that they've been in years past, and they keep like getting lucky in the waning moments of games. But Detroit, they are good, bro. And it's not just talent-wise. When you watch the way that each position plays, from the receiver to Penei Sewell has a highlight tape that I would watch.
He is so good.
He's an offensive lineman. And when you see him change direction, block multiple people on single plays, like they are special. And I think like their expectation is Super Bowl.
I have a hot take.
Give me a hot take.
On Penei Sewell. You should be talked about in the MVP conversation.
Okay, you're drunk. That's not a hot take.
No. He's the first player so far in NFL history to not concede a sack but get sacked. Just because of the play call that they had on Thanksgiving where they called a Penei Sewell pass, I was like, that guy should be in the MVP conversation.
Lane Johnson would get so upset if that happened. Hasn't Lane Johnson been doing this for years? He's like never given up a sack. And he's like, this guy's been here 2 years.
Look,
he gets an MVP?
It's an award that is specifically designed for offensive players, and the kicker one random time. But I think that if you look at their team and you say that they don't have a superstar, the guy that's best at his job on that team, and they have plenty of good ones, especially now that Hutchinson's out, it's very clear who the best player on that team is at his job. It's Penei Sewell.
I'll give you another hot take. The Bengals should have drafted Penei Sewell over Jamar Chase, even still today.
Wow.
That's not a hot take.
That's not a hot take.
No,
Jamar Chase is
NFL
the best
hipsters
receiver.
have been saying this for years. I think there's a lot of agreement.
People
about
were
that
dunking
take.
on me on Twitter for saying Penei Sewell was
don't
the
ball.
pick.
Yours is a tired, recycled take stolen from other people who are
I've been
way
saying
ahead of
no.
you on something that
That's not what I was. Dan, don't pit us against
we
each
were
other.
shocked. We were all shocked here at the
Typical union
suggestion.
buster.
Thank you.
Suggestion that an offensive lineman would be better than a wide receiver. Okay, put it on the poll at Le Batard Show, Juju, because I've got some questions based on what it is you guys just said. At Le Batard Show, can an offensive lineman ever win the MVP? At Le Batard Show, Mike Ryan just mentioned, and this. In retrospect, I can't believe that you just skipped over this because I want to place it in front of you again. We just skipped right past it. I want you all to imagine the MVP award being announced this year and a kicker being named the MVP. the way Mark Mosley was. I want you to try and imagine that a kicker would ever be named the MVP of football.
There were a couple of years ago where I would have argued Justin Tucker deserves at least some consideration because their entire identity was like, all right, Justin, win this one for us.
The thing that I wanted to ask Andrew, though, about what Tony was saying, because you say Sewell is the Lions' best player, and he says St. Brown's not a star. And he's not a star, but the production is that of a star. Like a star on a winning team gets to the – you cannot argue. I ask you as a wide receiver, what that person does as a number one receiver for that team seems pretty unstoppable to me.
He's an incredible player, but I feel like star isn't always directly tied to your stats or what you mean to your football team. And we have this like issue in professional football and professional sports in general that the way we're introduced to you is how we'll kind of always see you. You are who you are. He's not a first round pick. He's not a 6'4", 210-pound 4'3" runner from the University of Alabama. So always he's going to be a blue collar, lunch pail, you've overachieved type of player, and because of that, it's going to be hard for him to reach star status.
Okay, so let's examine one of the things that he's saying here and bring it over to basketball when he talks about first-round picks, because I was thinking about this and what plagues the Miami Heat as they chase the Boston Celtics here. It wasn't that long ago in the bubble at the rim, Bam blocking Jason Tatum, that those two franchises were even at that point. They were the same. And the difference was Bam blocking Tatum at the rim. Since then, architecturally, the Celtics have made a change with Porzingis. But what you have happening right now with the Heat is, and this is why Pat Riley hasn't blown it up, he keeps asking Tyler Hero, Bam, and Jimmy Butler to be the three all-stars that it looks like Boston has. Are our all-stars better than their all-stars? And then what I start doing is first-round picks. Well, all their all-stars, their ceiling is higher than where Heroes and Bams and Jimmy Butlers were. When the measurements were being made, Tatum and Jaylen Brown and Porzingis, they're the top of the top. Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero, or Bam will make the most with what we've got. And then what happens is the separation between those two teams because your number ones can't get to the ceiling of their number ones. And then you fall behind forever because their guys are young. Like that. And so I wonder, can the analysis be that on in basketball that Jimmy Butler, what Jimmy Butler's ceiling is, what Tyler Hero's ceiling is, what Bam's ceiling is what their draft status says it is. But what Tatum's and Brown's and Porzingis is that's a different stratosphere of what the talent tells you it's valued at is in that sport. It just usually doesn't grow quite that symmetrically where you saw the two teams were even and you're like, no, they're not. No, they're not even.
I think they would have been fine had they made another acquisition, though. They were in the game for Damian Lillard. They failed. Now, that might not have worked out, but I think you're selling Boston short when you just put it on those guys. They got rid of Marcus Smart, too. They bring in Derek White. They made a bunch of acquisitions around that core three because that core three was faced with what Miami's pretty much faced with now, which is your core three isn't good enough. So they tried desperately to get a more representative sample just to see if that high-end expectation could be there, and they succeeded where Miami has failed in recent years in acquiring that talent.
Can I get you guys to examine some film here with me? Because I have been talking over the last couple of years about the entitlement that fans have or feel that they can behave a certain way in the age of social media around athletes and people who are in the middle of the spectacle, that you wouldn't behave that way in other settings. This season of Great Lions Expectations has a fan on the field before the game trash talking with Matt LaFleur because this fan feels comfortable enough to approach the coach and in general the Packers and say a bunch of things that it is unwise for him to be saying in a Branch jersey. Is that who is that? The fan, that bearded guy there that's just on the field. Did we get any information as to why he was on the field?
I think it's Matt Patricia.
I was just going to make that joke.
But I think we're confirming.
Internet doxing resources are all tied up right now.
Okay.
We're focusing on what happened in New York City. We'll find out this guy later.
When you were talking about a fan doing something inappropriate, I thought you meant the guy just wasting cheese behind you throughout
gross.
this whole show. What a waste. That's a nice brick of cheddar.
Hold on, we don't know if it's a waste because we're only seeing him from the chest up.
You think
Maybe
there's
he's
a
got a
bowl
plate
down
of
there?
nachos down there and he's grating
No.
the cheese on top of the
He's
nachos.
grating cheese onto the
Caesar
ground or
salad.
onto the
nachos.
fan in front of him or onto the field. That is a disgusting waste of cheese.
Cheese
sir.
is
Shame
overrated.
on you.
If I may, I wasn't allowed into Hard Rock.
I'm gonna put it out there.
What?
Cheese is overrated.
Now
I
you're just
said
doing
it.
a thing. You're just
I'm
trying
not
to,
doing
you're trying
a
to
thing.
do. Let me give a
You
hot
get
take
out.
here.
That's
You
not a hot take.
get out.
I am black, and
Hold me back.
most black people become lactose intolerant when they reach like 23. Did you guys not know this?
No.
This
two
is the thing.
Americas.
Let me.
Everyone's
Two
lactose intolerant.
Americas.
Three
They turn
Americas.
23.
3 Americas, 4 Americas. I don't know how many Americas it is, Tony. I'm just telling you that one of my elders would always tell me, like, man, boy, you like that milk. You love that cheese. And I'm like, yeah, it's great.
Ice cream.
They're like, when you get in your 20s, you're not going to be able to handle it. And lo and behold, me and all my friends, we're black. And for the majority of a lot of black people, you just become lactose, and it's not worth it after a while. Which has taught me that cheese is overrated.
Perhaps mixing a white friend?
Yeah. Nah.
You're good?
I'm good. We're pretty stacked in here.
This guy's like first row. Is he doing it onto the field? Where is that cheese going?
Look, they wouldn't allow me in a Hard Rock Stadium with a Zin. How did this guy get a cheese grater in?
You think this guy brings more than one block? He's like, I need one for pregame. I need one. You know, I gotta have a
Every
few
time a camera comes around, he's just
None of you
grating
will
cheese.
be surprised by this. I used to eat cheese just like that, government cheese, just like that. I would just take slices off it in front of the television. I am disgusted by myself as I say this,
proud of you.
but cheese is overrated is as shocking a thing as has ever been said on this show.
I think properly rated is fine.
I think it's spot on. I think it's one of my best takes.
you not
behind,
like nachos?
Behind my original take of Penei Sewell over Jamar Chase that everyone knows originated with me.
Answer the
Jesse.
question about nachos first.
Do you not eat nachos?
Do you
not
not
eat
like
pizza?
nachos?
I do eat pizza. I eat it. It's
It's like
overrated.
80% cheese.
So
I didn't say I'm like boycotting cheese.
If you go to an
I'm
Italian,
good with it.
So
I'm just
properly
it's
rated.
overrated.
if you go to an Italian restaurant and they give you your dish and they go, I'm gonna do cheese now. Say when. You're just like, no thanks.
I say no.
Really?
Yeah.
That is
You
great.
say
That is
no?
They serve me the pasta.
You
Cheese,
say
absolutely not. Please leave.
I
my-
make them look at me 3 times. Like, are you gonna say when? And I'm just like,
You
no,
make them
keep
grade
going.
the cheese
Keep
and
going.
just give them straight
how long
eye
do you have them
contact.
go? How long do
Just
you have them
keep
go
going.
with it, Chris?
They look and they're like, this is it.
Maybe
right?
that's
This-
what this Lions fan was just doing.
You should have said when by now.
Someone
and
had a
I'm just
bowl
like,
of pasta in front of him.
Well, the never-ending possible is back.
It is?
Yeah.
He's just grating cheese on top of a Packers player. Hey, I don't think that guy should have been on the field, number one. And this is what I hate about the fandom, to your point, Dan. I don't like – it irks me whenever fans are in spaces of people who are working and with the expectation that we have to do the show and pony dance. And that upsets me. So in a pregame, if you've ever been around me in a pregame, I'm a lunatic. Not conducive for fandom.
I don't
The
know.
internet has found this person, by the way. Yeah,
I was
wanna
going to
get-
say, what?
Which
Yeah.
guy?
Wait a
The
minute.
cheese guy, the
Wait,
cheese
wait,
guy.
wait, because you were talking about New York as
Yeah,
well.
I thought-
Hold
Yeah,
on.
no. That guy got away with it. So the cheese guy, though, we found him. Although he's got a very political name, so I'm not going to go with it. Block of cheese was in a clear bag. Hand grater was in my jacket arm. I don't like to sweat, so I took off the jacket as I entered. Had the grater stuffed in my arm. They asked me to shake my jacket while it was in there. That's how he snuck it in.
And you couldn't sneak in a Zin? I'm saddened by that.
They were like, it's tobacco. I'm like, it's not tobacco. That's the whole point.
I will say that a cheese grater, you can do some real damage with a weapon as a cheese grater. As
What
a
are you
weapon.
going to do with a cheese
Yeah.
grater?
I watched.
They're sharp.
Are you kidding? You never
sharp?
watched ECW in the 90s. Let me tell you something.
Grate my
Do
face?
Damage.
Yeah.
Damage with a cheese
Just
grater.
ask Abdullah the Butcher what that could do.
You guys don't think that if I if we were in a fight and I had a cheese grater, you don't think I've got a weapon that's advantageous to hurt you?
You have
You
to like,
absolutely do.
if I'm like laying down and just like grate me, like I'm
No,
not gonna
it's-
like let.
I- no,
I'm
this
just
is
gonna
a
give
shot.
you
I'm
my
with Chris
hand.
Cody. This is ridiculous.
Grate me.
You have to get me first.
I would roundhouse
grate the
kick the
shit out of
cheese
you.
grater out of your hand.
could
Then what do
grate
you
me.
have?
No, you get graded. You haven't watched the new Evil Dead. There's a whole scene with a cheese grater.
Skin everywhere, bro.
Gross.
Can we get an update on New York City, please? A lot of people were live, and a lot of people are curious about.
We
this.
have a picture of his face, and yet the internet still hasn't figured out who this person is. But we only have an image of this person's face because of Riz. He checked in at a hostel, and he apparently, this is according to Caitlin Collins, was flirting with the person manning the front desk.
Hold on. I've got to tell people that a healthcare CEO was assassinated in the street, and there wasn't very much evidence of who it is that had done it, and now people are on the search for a face they do have, because it's not every day you have video footage of anyone just assassinated in the street or a healthcare CEO, because this isn't even about a murder in the street. This is about the healthcare crisis and who we can turn to a symbol in these times that also has a murder element to it, as people are downloading podcasts about murder by the billions.
Yeah, we haven't had something like this either, where the internet sleuths have like one huge common goal. But we only have this image, according to Caitlin Collins, because when he went to check in at this hostel, there was an alleged flirtation, and the person that was working the desk said, "Hey, lower your mask a little bit," and then he cheesed for the cameras a little bit. And now it appears he might be appearing on College Game Day on Saturday to pick some games, because that looks just like Timothy Chalamet.
Oh, he's handsome.
Yeah.
He has a good smile. I was thinking
Good
when
bone
they showed
structure.
the picture, I'm like, is that inappropriate to say the guy has a nice smile?
It's a flirty smile too.
It's
That's not just
very
like a normal.
symmetrical.
That's very like, hey, yeah, thanks. I will lower my mask actually.
This does look like Dune 2.
He's flexing. He's like, yeah, like, you don't know how good looking I am, do you?
The internet is trying to chase down this person, and we still don't know who it is that this person is. You would think that with just that information, many people would already have come forth, and we'd have a name and all manner of information.
Yeah, I mean, is it inappropriate to say that he appears like he has Riz? Probably, but has everyone on the internet already said it? Yes.
Yes,
That was
okay.
sort of the react. I think you're good.
Okay.
That's my point.
All right. So as long as I'm not the first here, unlike my Penei Sewell take. But also, is it Riz if you're at a hostel?
It's Riz everywhere.
I don't think it is.
It's Riz everywhere, baby.
I don't think it's Riz if you're literally there to feel like you have Riz. If you have to pay for it, it's not Riz.
I'm a little
Are
worried.
you confusing hostel and brothel?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's just
Yep,
rich
that's
guy
it.
problems.
Good call, Tony.
Just no, because I heard what he was saying, then I was like, wait a second.
Yep, I did.
You know what?
That is a fact.
I appreciate your honesty.
Yes,
and
I did
look,
confuse a hostel with a
there's a
brothel.
lot of stuff going on right here.
Dan,
that-
you're rich. You thought the same thing.
That
Yeah.
is, I'm going to tell you guys what is
I'm like,
what is.
I thought maybe he was trying to get the edge off. He had a big day ahead of him. He's
Dan,
like,
mistakes like that don't
Let me,
typically
uh,
get tolerated from that seat. Just saying.
I'm getting started to not tolerate them, but you need to allow me to explain what I believe just happened here, because I am giving Andrew Hawkins a wide berth. At one point, he said something like a pony and show or something
Yeah.
that wasn't a dog and pony show.
Dog and pony
It was-
show, yeah.
And I gave him a wide berth because he's gotten off, first of all, what I am used to from that seat, Penei Sewell over Jamar Chase as a hot take, and Cheese is overrated.
Come on, though.
So he's given me two things that I need from this seat, and Cheese is overrated makes me think that he wants Dominique Foxworth's job on Get Up now, because he's getting good at this game. When you go to Cheese is overrated, Andrew Hawkins has learned some things about the media business that he's had to learn over the last few years, and now he's just looking to get aggregated on behalf of black people, I might add, because he's speaking for the other America that's not
Okay.
being represented by this cheese-soaked show.
all right, let's. Every black person speaks for black people. That's number one. That's not a shtick. That is like the two Americas is obviously true. You guys know that. You've heard it 1,000 times. But honestly, that is the sentiment of me and Cheese. These aren't hot takes. This is just who I am. And a lot of people I feel like would back me up.
Lactose intolerant.
Lactose intolerant. Thank you. That's the first time you've heard that.
I have not heard lactose intolerant
See?
before. I must
There you go.
admit that is the first time I've ever heard that expression.
As well as the Penei Sewell take.
That's the
Continue.
first time I'd heard that, but that was old news to Jessica. Jessica's way out in front of all of us on football. She's like been gobbling up Hard Knocks. Like she can't get enough Hard Knocks.
I only because I very recently was on Dominique's podcast, and that exact take came up like a week ago, so it was fresh on my mind. But he's right about gobbling up Hard Knocks. Sorry, I can't say that with a straight face. I have been doing that. And when you talk about leadership, Hawk, I know you haven't seen the episode yet, but Tomlin, he kind of stands out in that group of 4 head coaches. I mean, Harbaugh's up there for sure, but if you're giving me Stefanski and Zach Taylor and Tomlin, and I'm hearing them all speak to the team before games, I'm like, oh, man, there is a big difference here in leadership.
Top coach I've ever wanted to play for is Mike Tomlin. And every player that's played for him says the same thing, you want to play for him. No matter who they played for, the Patriots, obviously the Browns, but you name it, Mike Tomlin is number one. So that does not surprise me.
He has to like cheese.
No way he eats cheese. No way Mike Tomlin can eat cheese.
Put it on the poll, please. Is Mike Tomlin lactose intolerant?
Yes.
Can you tell me, though, walk me through, leadership is overrated. Nobody knows how to lead. Mike Tomlin is a better leader than everybody else.
Hold on. See, now we're changing takes. I never said leadership is overrated.
Forgive me.
That was cheese.
Forgive me. That was cheese.
Cheese was overrated.
You know what?
No one knows how
You know
to
what?
lead.
My bad. I was so disoriented by the cheese is overrated thing that I'm like, this guy thinks everything's overrated. Like,
Yeah.
so that's my fault.
Can't impress the man.
That's my that's my.
know?
So yes, you did not say that leadership was overrated, but you did say that nobody knows how to lead. But Mike Tomlin, 18 straight winning seasons would suggest that there's something he knows.
Yeah, he knows. I mean, he's a leader just naturally of who he is. Like, there are other people, like, you've been in situations, you've been in companies, you've been a part of teams, you've been a part of, whatever that is, where people take lead. And it does not matter how many self-help books they've read or who they've studied or whatever leadership style they think they picked, they are just not good at leading. And so what I'm saying is I just feel like that is something naturally that you have an ability to do based on you being really comfortable in your person and doing what you do, and people just gravitate.
Okay, so authentic. In terms of authenticity, we've seen some fascinating things in football. I think over the last few years in coaching, Belichick's interviewing for the North Carolina job over here. He's been run out of the sport.
Yeah, that's crazy.
By the LaFleurs and the babies of the world who come in, and I've got scheme for you. Now it's LaFleur against Ben Johnson and all that stuff, right? But in the middle of it is Man Campbell, doing old football things in old football ways. While Man Campbell looks the part. He'll kick your head coach's ass. All of you. Whoever your head coach is, he'll kick his ass. LaFleur's in the middle of it. He's one of the math guys, the calculator guys, and he's fighting with fans. So let's get him after the game talking about this fan on the field and what LaFleur is saying, because that was a who's who game, and LaFleur lost it. And now I say Campbell's the only who here. LaFleur's got to earn his who. He doesn't earn it with a loss.
Yeah, I've never been a part of something like that. He was talking junk to our players, giving them the throat slash sign. And you're trying to de-escalate it, and then he gets in my face. So I thought it was pretty unsportsmanlike. Like, I've never seen that. I've been on many fields, and usually they police that much better. I thought it was an arrogant fan that, wanted to get in part of the action, and just I would like to see security or something step in there and get him out of there, because he shouldn't be doing that.
Hawk, help me with this part of it, because I actually got lost last night in a video of bears attacking people.
Real ones?
Like Chicago Bears?
Your algorithm.
It's not weird. It's fascinating. It's Grizzlies, Brown Bears, but not actually getting them, just close calls where bears are interacting with others. And in the video, there was a drunk guy who got into an area where a bear was and a pool, purposely went into an enclosed area. And I'm thinking to myself, how drunk do you have to be to do that? All of which is to say, you just said that you're rabid on the field before games. Does that person not know how dangerous a situation that is to be doing throat-slashing gestures to those people before the game, when one of them will harm him if he does something much further than that, because he shouldn't be on the field, that's a dangerous place for him to be?
He feels like because he's down there and there's cameras, there is an insurance policy that somebody will not go off and punch him in the face. Now, look, they can do this cat and pony show, okay? But at the same time, whenever you are in that environment, I am okay. If LaFleur would have just straight hauled up and slapped him,
see, you're okay with that, and
I would have been
is.
like, that's the problem, Dan. You should be okay with that. Don't go into a Bears environment and expect not to be bitten.
you've always been pro punching, pro slapping in this scenario because you said it last week
there's
too. That like,
context.
hey, if you're gonna come into our scenario here, you might get
You might
una
get
galleta,
one.
and then that happens.
And it'll teach you a lesson, and you won't do it anymore. When Sirianni yells at fans, I hate it because he goes into their domain. He's over into the stands where they should enjoy the game or do whatever they'd like to do, and that's bad leadership to me. I feel like, you know what, stay where you are, let them stay where they are, and then we can go on with this equation that we've built at pro football. We be the players and coaches, let them be the fans. Whenever you're on the field and that maniac mentality is kicking in, yeah, anything is liable to happen.
Just to close the loop, Tomlin was eating chili cheese Fritos on Hard Knocks.
I love those.
Yeah, but that's not real cheese though.
Those
That's
are
not real
good.
cheese. That's like fake plastic.
If he likes the
chemical.
fake stuff, he likes the real stuff.
No,
those
that's not
are
true.
the good ones, though. Those are hard to refuse.
Fritos are terrible.
What?
Yeah.
And they smell bad.
I'm not a Frito guy either.
I'm with you on that.
They smell like the smell of Fritos
You don't
literally
like
makes
corn
me sick.
either?
But it does go well with chili. I'll give it that.
Yeah. It's just, Dan, the facts are the facts,
What's
man.
your favorite food?
Spaghetti.
But wait a second. They put cheese on spaghetti, but not
No,
you?
they don't. No, not black
supposed
people.
to.
We don't put cheese on spaghetti, bro.
All right.
He's offensive to me.
Yeah.
Easy, Dan.
I find him offensive.
Fritos are.
He's entitled to his
Opinion. Thank
experiences
you.
and opinions.
Thank you, Jess. That means a lot.
I also can't digest cheese well, but it doesn't stop me.
that incidentally was Detroit's third game in 11 days. Like, that team has separated itself even in a sport where you understand, yeah, Philadelphia might be able to beat them and Baltimore might be able to beat them and the Chiefs might be able to beat them or the Bills might be able to beat them. But Detroit has everyone in the league knowing that, holy shit, this is the best Lions team there's ever been. Like, none of us have seen a Lions team that looks like this one. None of us have believed that there's a Lions team that could do anything like this. They made two of their greatest players quit, and the third greatest went to win the championship immediately somewhere else in Matthew Stafford. Like, that history is like a Lions fan feeling so full of himself on the field to go after the Packers coach is a Lions fan I have never known, and I have never known his father, and I have never known his grandfather. And I've never known a Lions fan that feels that kind of confident on what their team is. Because you can't. Because two of their best players quit early. Not one. Their two best. Calvin Johnson was better than Matthew Stafford at what he did. Their two very best players quit, said, fuck this. I can't play with these people anymore.
You know, when you say it like that, now I think the fan deserved it. Now I'm like, you know what? I get it. He's allowed to be intoxicated on the field.
He's intoxicated with Lions football.
That's what I mean. I should have qualified that.
That's everything that's happening there. If you want to be with us on Sunday, watching football, enjoying our company, having Stugotz sign books. Stugotz is selling and signing books.
I believe he's just signing them. We will not be selling Stugotz books there. If you have a Stugotz book, bring it. He'll sign it. We will be selling coloring books, signed coloring books at the watch party this Sunday. It's at Dolphin Mall, Vivo, 1 p.m. game time. The event is from 12 to 5. God bless football. A bunch of the crew will be out there. Come on out. Was that better than yesterday, Dan?
Yes, thank you.
My energy.
Slightly.
Thank you.
Yes, slightly better than yesterday. You might have a future in this business. You, too, might have a contract like Stephen A. Smith's one day in the future. I see both of you are vying for it. Andrew Hawkins with his hot takes and you. What did you guys make of the reporting on the Stephen A. Smith is close to terms? I haven't talked sports media in a while. I've got a lot of interesting stuff here. I've found some interesting stuff out here that is like the way that he's going to change the game from inside the machine is going to be really fun to watch.
Dan, when I saw that, first off, I was made very happy, right? Because when you look at somebody in the industry and then they set a new high water mark, you're like, wait a second. I'm in this industry. I have hope. Don't tell me that we can't reach the stars when there's footprints on the moon.
For sure.
Andrew Hawkins, you know what I'm talking about. Leader of men.
Leader
you
of
look at somebody and say like, oh wait, he got how much? Wait a second. There's money around here that we can all make money. Let's be happy for this.
Yes, Lord, deliver us from
all these pick sixes.
Yeah, from these pick sixes.
Then there's also the crushing reality. It's like, damn. Stephen A. Smith is more than 140 times better at this than me.
Let's go ahead and play the imaging so that I can talk about this.
Do you get annoyed every time Dan Le Batard pontificates about the sports media industry? Well, too bad, He knows you don't give a damn about what he's gonna say. It's time for sports media talk today.
So I am proud that we have a Miami media company. Those are hard to come by. Not many of those ever in the history of this town. And one of the
English
things,
speaking for sure.
That's correct. You know what?
Yeah, we got about 24 down here.
Yeah, we've got plenty Spanish speaking. But as we do this party on Sunday, and I explain to the audience what it bought us beyond coloring books and parties. This is what it bought us at the middle of what Stephen A. Smith is doing and has done. We were worth a certain thing at ESPN, and we jumped as the media collapses all over the place into a different thing that makes us worth a lot more. And McAfee and Stephen A. Smith saw that and bring it to Disney and are like, and where's ours? They give it to McAfee, and when you give it to McAfee, you got to give the production deal to Stephen A. Smith. The one thing that I don't know if what I'm about to say is true because this part bums me out and I didn't totally understand it. I don't know why Around the Horn is actually going away. No one has told me, but it has the ratings First Take does. So it's not a business sense thing that makes any sense to me. I need the reckless speculation here because I don't actually know this. Hold on a second.
Time to throw away all journalistic credibility and get reckless. Here is something we like to call reckless speculation.
You're good.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm guessing that they're going to put whatever Stephen A. Smith wants wherever it is that he wants it. And there'll be something for him at 5 p.m. there because Stephen A. Smith wants it, because he has just changed the game on, if you guys give McAfee a deal for $20 million and a production deal and he doesn't have the ratings I have, and he doesn't, then what are you giving me? You give me everything Disney has. You give me everything that's here because Disney needs me more than I need Disney right now, because I've been building my shit on your dime in front of everybody on the side, and if I take it somewhere else, I'm going to be able to sell it for more than all of these other people sell it for.
Yeah, but I will say that McAfee does a lot for that network, and the College Game Day ratings have totally turned around. They're averaging more than 2 million viewers. McAfee is a big reason for that. He also does things in digital video that Stephen A. Smith doesn't quite do.
Not yet.
He
Not
does
yet.
things in the well, he does. Stephen A. does do digital audio and video, but he has that siloed to his own. He has those carved out. He's not doing it for ESPN. Now, McAfee, to a degree, does it for ESPN and also does it for himself. It's a kooky deal. But McAfee, I would not say McAfee doesn't bring the ratings that Stephen A. does, because McAfee can point to that Cadillac on Saturdays and be like, I'm a big reason for that turnaround.
They're going to try and kill Stephen A. more than they already are, right? If that deal goes through and everything is it, like, he's going to be just on 24/7.
Well, the problem is him there. He's a workaholic, so he wants all the things inside and outside of the machine, but he's going to get them is the thing. Like, this is going to be a groundbreaking deal that no one in the history of the media has seen before. He's always wanted to be Howard Cosell, and he's going to be the modern-day version of Howard Cosell.
But you know how, like, in the NBA and the NFL, we've seen this with quarterbacks before, like, wait, you're giving them what? That's going to ruin contracts for everybody else. ESPN, along the time that they got rid of us, had a different approach when it came to talent. And don't worry, Hawk, I'm going to be very careful around those
I was going to say,
sensitivities
I'm looking how to jump into this. This is a very weird situation I'm in currently in this conversation.
I think we all understand.
Hold on. Do I need to let him go for a second? Hold on. Let me see if I can help him. No, let's see.
He never served a penalty for the
all right, okay.
the brothel thing.
Hold on a second.
The brothel hostel thing.
Yeah, it happened.
Delayed penalty. We had 6 on the ice. Let's go.
I've got the other one on now. I've got multiple things going on. Hold on a second. Let me find the one. Delayed penalty. Oh, I've got the right one now. Hold on.
We've got a penalty, 5 minutes, major asshole.
Wow. That's unfair and harsh.
He doesn't want to sit here and talk with us about this thing. We're giving him cover.
Are you the asshole?
I was gonna say,
you got to understand his situation here. But what I would say is they pivoted and they realized that we have a bunch of talent that's in an upper tier.
You know what? Forgive me for a second. Forgive me.
Major penalty on the ice, 5 minutes for spreading propaganda.
Might be worse.
You didn't say anything.
I said you're good.
Not helping, Dan.
I was prompted to.
Don't worry, we're all going to come around and make the point here, which is thank you, Dan. I'm pretty sure that's how this one ends, where Dan says you're welcome. But they have a different approach to talent, and instead of like spending it on a bunch of people that would be like, are they like an A level star or are they A minus, B level? They decided we're going A plus across the board. We're going superstar game changers. But if that reported number that's attached to that deal is accurate, it's going to have a trickle down effect, and it's going to be difficult for them to navigate on their contracts going forward, because you're going to say things like, are you to tell me that Stephen A. Smith is 75 times more valuable to this company than I am?
To which, yes, would be that.
That number keeps getting smaller.
If it was
by the
me.
way.
No, I know he's 140 times more important to that network certainly than I am. But I'm saying for the other talents, without naming names. If McAfee or Greenberg comes up, they're going to be pointing to that deal, because that's going to set a new standard, and they're going to be doing the math. Like, is he really that much more valuable to this company than I am? That's just the nature of talent contracts.
Mike, you've turned into David Sampson during the Ichiro conversation, where like the $100 million contract is going to end the sport. And now 15 years later, we've got $1 billion contract.
Well, it's been redefined, though, because this kind of thing, as they cut costs all over media, and I tell you that media is collapsing, it's hard to make the argument that media is collapsing when you can afford to pay Stephen A. Smith the kind of money that allows him not only these things, but also Disney property access that is kind of huge, more valuable perhaps than even the money we're talking about. And I'm also guessing freedom. I'm guessing that he also gets to do outside of those things all the politics that he wants and everything that he wants everywhere else. But there is not enough time in the day for him to do all of the things that he wants to do in terms of conquering money making and then spreading that money around to help build whatever it is he wants to build to leave a legacy for others behind him in the business, because he's interested in that too. This isn't just a money game for all the people who are competing at the top of it. It's the power game of how do we rescue the parts of media that are going to remain 3 years from now.
Let me be abundantly clear, though, because I was just talking about the possible ramifications. I think the ramifications are good, because if it's always good, and you got this when we had our deal with our wonderful partners over at DraftKings, which is, even McAfee said, thank you, because that's great. That's a number that's out there in the public space, and you're growing the industry for others. If there's a talent that should be the highest paid in the game, it's Stephen A. Smith.
I like that.
It's Stephen A.
me,
Smith.
damn it.
But then we get to do the math, like, well, is he 150 times more important than us? And it's all great stuff for the industry. So I say, you're the greatest of all time. Set that number to an absurd place and keep reaching for the side.
To the moon.
I also want to make just one clarification, because I'm forever being aggregated here in spaces that can cause me problems with people. There have been times that McAfee feels like, for whatever the reasons, that I have not been supportive of what it is that he's doing. So the math that I was simply giving you before was to show you the basic humanity as we talk about crazy, insane numbers of, if we leave ESPN and that opens up the door for McAfee to turn everything that he did, he had the deal at FanDuel that he got that was like the one that we've got with DraftKings, and then he says, nope, rip it up, I'm going there because I can do the things that Stephen A. wants to do. When Stephen A. sees that happen, and it's a deal for X with production expenses that also have millions of dollars in it that allow McAfee to go on game day and do all the shit. I'm going to pay $100,000 for a kick. I'm going to pay $1 million to Aaron Rodgers to do this over here. Stephen A. Smith sees the new person get that at a company that once wouldn't allow the precedent between Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann to be, no, Dan, we can't put a TV in your office because then Keith will want one. The precedent that they've set.
We could have talked about this on Monday without Hawkins in there.
Yeah, I'm just along.
So what is this all
but
bad?
You know
Wait a
what?
minute, why does this make it all? Does this sound bad for ESPN? What am I doing that it puts him in the bad position of talking around and
Don't
about?
ask him that directly. Objection, Your Honor.
Yeah, do the asshole thing again.
Yeah, to be
You're
fair,
the
asshole. Yeah,
asshole penalty yourself.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. The union is back.
Do the what?
Andrew Hawkins.
Yes, I'm pro-union. You talk about contracts at my other employer.
Yeah, do that asshole thing to yourself again.
Goodness gracious. I've been thinking about this. The reason why my brain, I figured it out. The word association of brothel and hostel, the movie Hostel.
Which
right?
is also a brothel.
When he goes states somebody and turns into a brothel, that's where my brain just subconsciously
I think it's the L at
took
the
it.
end for both of them too,
Yeah,
right?
it's the
Hostel,
O.
brothel.
There's
Yeah.
E's and there's O's also.
There's E's and
Also,
there's O's.
like
Similar
Eastern
vowels,
European
All-
thing.
yeah, it's like
Hostels need a better PR agent.
Hostels are
brothels
just
need a better
hotels.
PR agent. Am I right?
Well, without your own bathroom.
No,
Well, brothels are the. I'm confused about
I'm
all
just
this.
kidding. Hostels definitely need a better PR
I think PR
agent.
is good for brothels right
Let me
now.
just be clear. I've never stayed at either.
Yeah, me
I've
either.
stayed at
That's
a
the
hostel
problem. I've only
before.
ever seen them in movies.
It's just like there's bunk beds and you share a communal bathroom.
Oof, I
Yeah,
hate
that sounds dangerous
Sounds
because I
awful.
watched the movie and I just now associate
A
when
lot of
there's a
people
hostel,
say-
there's a
there's-
brothel not too far away from it.
There's hostels in Miami Beach. And
Are
also
there?
brothels in Miami Beach.
I'm sure there
No,
are. I've-
not well. They can't be advertising it. Come on.
Here's,
PR
what
agent.
here's what I'll say about the Stephen A. Smith contract now that I acted like I wasn't going to say anything. Is now it's like football in the sense you've pushed the veteran money up and you've pushed the rookie money up, right? Pat McAfee being the rookies where like Sam Bradford was coming in and they were like, they're making too much. But then also the veterans were making money. Then they put the rookie wage scale on and it ruined everything. Because now you're capping the guys coming in early, and now nobody can make money. You're cutting veterans. So the fact that now everybody's getting paid, both the rookies and the extreme vets like Stephen A. Smith, I feel like that's a great situation to be in for talent. To your point, Mike.
This is a fantastic thing for talent all across and creators, content creators, because you want to keep pushing where the ceiling is.
Yes.
Always. Anybody that's in this game wants the water level to rise and establish a new high point, because that's going to be used, for better or for worse. Another piece of confetti just fell. This is amazing.
Congratulations.
That's just still dating back. That's how big that Peacock announcement was.
Yeah.
That's just the way that all these talent contracts go, is you're going to say, well, that guy's worth that to you, so I must be worth blank.
Yeah. And it also prevents you from like, when I think about McAfee, who obviously is incredible, I have a ton of respect for McAfee. I've looked up to what he's built on his own and then leveraged it literally anywhere and everywhere, because he's like, I am the entity. Well, now for someone like Stephen A. Smith, again, to your point, who sees that, this gives you an incentive to say, okay, well, it's still not too bad to stay in-house at ESPN in this world of creators and YouTube and social media, where everybody is trying to build their own thing, much like this company here, who has the ability to do so.
Yeah, and Stephen A. is certainly charting his own course in that. McAfee built that outside of ESPN. He built something that was attractive that ESPN wanted in on. Stephen A., while he's been at ESPN, has gotten carve-outs for his own digital enterprises, and he is growing those while being their most known talent, but certainly their most important talent over there. No one's really been afforded that over there, so he's charting a new course for himself, but also a happy byproduct of that is he's starting a new course for everybody else, because that's what leadership is. He may not have gotten into this thinking that he was a good leader, although I'm pretty sure he thinks he's an amazing leader. I've seen him say that he should be
president. An amazing leader.
He's following Dan's lead. I mean, let's be honest here.
Well, thank you, Dan, is how this all ends.
There you go.
Thank you, Dan.
More confetti.
You guys got there. Well done.
Dan.
Yes, excellent work by you. But when it comes to evolving sports media types, I want to ask you guys this question, because it's one of the most amazing stories I've ever seen in the history of sports media. He was let go by ESPN, and now he returns to conquer it. Al Michaels. A lot of people were complaining about him last night, complaining that game he wasn't meeting the moment with his enthusiasm as an old person. Al Michaels, one of the greats there's ever been, and is getting more and more criticized every time he does a broadcast. Tricky thing, aging with grace in this space. ESPN has done a great job with Lee Corso and Dick Vitale. How do you do this?
Yeah, well, Al Michaels is awesome. His voice across something makes it feel big. I'm not gonna pay attention to rabble rousers on the internet. I like hearing Kirk Herbstreit and Al Michaels on a game. And by the way, I don't know how many of you actually carve out parts of your day to watch the pregame from Amazon, but I think it's spectacular. I love that team that they have there. They have actually built a really compelling, good product. Now, we saw what happened on Thursday when teams have full rest. There are certain inherent things at Thursday Night Football. Hawk, maybe you can attest as someone that's played in those Thursday night games on short weeks, and it's part of the players' union. That
I was in the wave of games on Thursday that sucked.
Yeah,
that was like my era. Like,
were you in that game where
playing the Jags? And
were you in that game where they're
Titans.
like, "F it, Josh Cribbs is quarterback now"? Were you in that one?
I wasn't.
That one was a great one.
That was a good one.
But I think they do a great job with it. And now they also have this flex scheduling. You see, when they actually have a good game, conceptually, Thursday Night Football is an amazing idea. And I think that the broadcasting for a company that is just starting with this property, they're killing it.
Let me put in front of you a couple of college football stories, one of them involving Bill Belichick, okay? Because I was surprised, perhaps I shouldn't have been. I hadn't heard a lot of people talking about him to college. Interviewing for the North Carolina job just sort of disoriented me.
Because of the youth movement in Chapel Hill?
I wasn't expecting. You guys were unsurprised by this?
Well, Taylor actually told me a couple of days ago that this was happening. Taylor's super plugged in over there. Anything Chapel Hill, you just run by Taylor.
You want just revealing your sources.
No, Taylor. Jeez, I mean, it's out there now.
And you wonder why Stephen A. makes the big bucks.
Wow. You want to ask Taylor about
Taylor
it?
Told me. Taylor told me 3 days ago.
Apparently, his dad used to coach at North Carolina. I think this is him just kind of kicking the tires, and it does appear that the NCAA is going to follow more of an NFL model. The NCAA is going to get all the things that it's looking for.
And we know he can relate to 20-year-olds.
Let's not forget that Taylor once texted Mac Brown that Mac Brown should be fired from UNC.
That is not a real story.
No,
he did. To protect him. He didn't tell me he was going to get fired. Yes.
It was on accident. Somebody had said, like, he meant to text his buddy Mac should be out of here, and he sent it to Mac Brown.
That is worse. There's no version of that sounds better.
It was Roy Williams, so it's much better.
Oh,
It's-
UNC.
it's the
I got my old
legendary
UNC
basketball coach.
coaches mixed up. That's my bad. That one's on me.
And you were so eager to do it that you didn't even hear anybody correcting you. Like you were just a puppy dog, so excited to tell him that story that you didn't even hear the people who were correcting you.
Man.
You sure you don't want Taylor on this? He's really good. I have him here at all times.
I do want Taylor. Thank you for putting him there because, look, so.
Don't ask what he's doing down there.
Andrew, I am going to explain to you something Taylor related. At the last watch party we did, the only bit of stay there, Taylor, please.
I would love for you to explain to me how
He knows what's coming, so he wants to leave before you say it.
Yeah. Well, yes. So there's more to it though, because I need to explain this to Hawk and the audience. Taylor's a bit of a meathead. Okay. Taylor loves our show and is very helpful and wants to help everybody as a producer, but every once in a while a game will break out and he'll get distracted and become a fan.
Is he a volunteer? Because that's how you're describing him right now.
No, he's not. Well, he's not a volunteer.
Okay.
He gets paid, but things like what I'm about to tell you happen often.
Dario, not a volunteer.
So this person who evidently is more plugged into North Carolina than anybody and should be breaking North Carolina stories left and right because he knows all of them because he played for the North Carolina football team. I am near Wynwood, getting out of my car yesterday, and I'm getting out of my car and I'm like, man, Belichick to North Carolina, that like interviewing, that's surprising. And as I'm doing it, Taylor, through the sunshine, loves Miami. I'm surprised he wasn't shirtless, just waves. It's like, hey, Dan, and keeps moving. And I'm like, is there any reason you didn't break this story? And like Jess says, yeah, I had it 3 days ago, but it doesn't tell anybody. Just wanders around in a media company, doesn't know to impress by breaking a Belichick story that, like, I think that would have been a nationally important story. And
it might have been able to get him paid here instead of the internship he's clearly doing.
He's being paid.
Oh.
But,
But no insurance.
No insurance?
By the way, we're pushing back that he actually is a meathead. There's no doubt his voice sounds like a meathead, but he's not a meathead. I'm a meathead.
Okay. But anyways, at the last watch party, I said, you got any constructive criticism for our show? And his only thing was Les Taylor.
Wow. Okay. I mean, that would explain why he's under the desk of Mike.
I don't even talk on the show. We're just giving voices to the vocal minorities.
All right, get out of here. Thank you for all your good work interning on the show, and you should have broken the Belichick story because I think that one is super interesting.
Yeah.
I want to play some audio of Lane Kiffin and Mike Elko here because there are two different kinds of stories that I want to get to. But let's begin with the Lane Kiffin sound because the Ole Miss coach, I love him. I love that he's a part of this program. I love that he has resurrected himself after a couple of stumbles and that he continues to be wildly interesting and doesn't care either if anything he says makes sense.
I think that this is probably what you're going to have to get used to as fans. You know, teams having multiple losses in this conference, and you kind of tricked me into it. It's why it's just different. It's just totally different. And these comparisons of other conferences and ACC and Big 12, I mean, it's just like you might as well be in different leagues, not conferences, different leagues. You know, like here's the NFL, here's the SEC, here's those few Big 10 teams, and then here's everybody else. So you're going to see it in the draft. You know, it'll be different, like it always is with the SEC, the amount of kids drafted out of here and there. And so it's really a bad system. Here you go. You got me going. It's just a bad system. It's a bad system, and you got people in there in place of it. And I don't know, they gave me the list of the coaches today, you know. I mean, those coaches ever been down here in the Deep South into these stadiums and played in these games that are on this? So how do they even know? How do they even know what it's like to have to go win in these stadiums, in these places, and on the road of teams that they say, well, these teams are 500 teams, and we have, you know, the week where the three favorites all lose on, you know, the senior day and night in three of the hardest stadiums in America to play. It's much different than where these other conferences go and play. They're, you know, 6-6 teams that they got to go play, or 5-5 teams at the time. Just totally different. And you got to get up for it every week. It's a lot easier when you got to get up for 2 games a year, to get your team up.
I do not agree with him. I think the nation does, though. I think the committee does. I think the prevailing feeling is the SEC is the next professional league. There's professional football, there's the SEC, and then there's everything else. I think it's outdated information. It's wrong information, but I think most people, it's the information they have.
I think most people disagree with Lane just because of the nature of their losses down the stretch, too. But he says it's difficult to go into those SEC places, and I think he made a lot of good points in terms of like where players are drafted. But just note, Louisville and Miami played 2 of the SEC teams he lost to on the road and won by a combined 50 points.
You really feel like you
well,
nailed
that's
that
a
one.
that's a fucking bar. It's a fucking bar. Miami blew them out by 40, and you lost on senior day.
He
Get
looked
out of
over
here!
at you over his left shoulder.
You
He
lost to
never broke
Kentucky,
eye
brother.
contact.
You lost to Kentucky, brother. Louisville went over there. It wasn't hard for them.
I think most people do disagree with Lane, Dan. I feel like he's the wrong messenger for this, given the season that they've had and where they had it and the talent on the team. I really just think most people are like, yeah, we're not buying it this year. I'm sorry. It's just not true.
But Jessica, okay, so I would say to you, though, that that you and Mike are in the weeds on caring about college football in a way that fuels college football to its rabid heights. But if people who really like sports and are watching on Saturday, but not consuming college football the way Mike is investing in it and Jessica is snorting all of it, I believe that most people still believe that SEC football, that if I just go around the country, hey, do you think it's harder to play in an SEC stadium than all the other in Louisville? Then in Louisville, do you think it's harder? Yes or no?
Yeah, they would say yes, but
do you think that the SEC is better than the other do you think the SEC is better than the conference that Duke is in and that Louisville are in? Yes or no?
They all say yes.
I think it would be outdated information.
I don't know. It depends on the stadium. Vanderbilt Stadium's half under construction, and they still upset Alabama in front of mostly Alabama fans.
But sound like fans. Nobody gives a damn about what playing in the stadium. They're better because they have better players.
But Lane
they have
Kiffin,
more money. They have better recruits. If you take the whole team of Alabama and you put them on Toledo, guess who's going in the playoff?
Well, Toledo did win at an SEC team.
We
by
beat
40.
Mississippi, and it wasn't that crazy to play.
Hard.
You know why, Jess? Their players sucked, okay? It wasn't rocket science.
But it just means more over there. I will say that while Lane is making a losing argument for Ole Miss, he doesn't realize that, no, for that very logic, you won. There was an ACC 2-loss team that was borderline and an SEC 3-loss team, and they used your logic, Lane. They just had 3 teams to pick from, and you finished 3rd in that regard. But your overall point, that's what got Bama into the playoff.
Did you say rocket science on purpose? It was a good pun.
No, as you can tell from the brothel hostel situation, my word association is a little off today.
You should
but
take
thank you.
credit
I should get the makeup from earlier.
You really are wounded. Are you unforgiving of yourself on mistakes? Like, you're really hurt by the public mistake of confusing a brothel and a hostel.
No, I'm not hurt at all by that, actually.
He does seem insulted that we offered to make up to him, though.
No.
He's just like, I don't need makeup. Look at me. I'm like, you look good. You know.
I felt like when people say like, hey, do you need makeup? And I've never requested makeup. I'm like, well, I would rather you just tell me, hey, bro, you got blemishes.
I have never
powder you up real quick.
I have never seen our makeup staff so insistent.
Exactly, and me either. And I'm like, well, yes. If you're telling me I need makeup, then please don't have me in here not looking.
I mean, she does
like a heartthrob.
Get paid
per
person to do it.
Yeah.
So.
Which is why I do it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't know.
Next
time, come on, sure.
Yeah, next time, just say a little powder on the nose. It's fine.
It's called leadership. It's called teamwork.
Do you understand
I get it.
Do you understand
how
how weird it was for me to see him say, "No, I'm good." Look at him, and I'm like, "No, he's beautiful. He's probably been beautiful all his life. He's fine." And then they leave, unless he says, "Unless you're telling me I need it," and they're saying, "No, you don't need it." Then the next commercial break, they come in and you need it.
Yeah. Well, then you start getting a little shinier because you're talking. That's actually good work there.
Yeah,
crack staff.
I'm actually sweating right now because I'm hot.
You could use a little
well,
powder.
I'm used to a colder weather. Like when you play in the atmosphere of somewhere like Toledo and you got 28,000 screaming fans, right? That's a tough environment for anybody, SEC or not.
the thing that just happened with Mike Ryan and Jessica, I'd like to put a final bow on all of this because I would say I was startled this week and delighted that our little show just got grabbed by college football argument talk, where Jessica wants to talk on days she's not here, and Jeremy wants to talk on days he's not here, and Mike wants to talk on the day he missed, even though he monopolized the 3 days before that he was here, and then he gets back here and he says something, and then he says it to me, and then by 50, and he looks at me, and then he says, "That's a bar." Because he wanted to end the note on a bar, and
left you speechless. Left you all speechless. Run the tape. I was like, I guess we're going to break now because I killed it so goddamn
Not 30.
good.
Not 30.
Maybe Stephen A. is only 50 times better than me.
That was a damn good delivery. I could not
40.
stun on that.
50.
Can I get, though, one final? I don't want a closing argument. I just want to send. I want Jessica and Mike to go bar for unsaid bar.
You want more?
Okay. No, I want to finish the subject for the week.
I rest my case after I left you speechless.
Okay.
Gavel.
Jessica, any further thoughts on this? That was his closing argument. Any further thoughts on college football argument? I know I'm getting you after the martinis and the hangover.
Yes, there's SEC bias. Some of it is deserved, some of it is not, and Miami still should have beaten Syracuse. That's all I got. That's it.
Also, we have a guy that is presently employed by the University of Michigan making these arguments. They're all going to protect themselves because let me tell you something. If Indiana had the same record as Miami, Indiana was getting in. Because those two, look, the fact of the matter is...
I don't think that's true.
Well, this is an ESPN property.
How dare you talk about Immaculate Ward Manual like that? Oh, wait, sorry, Incarnate Ward. Damn it. I screwed up your screw up. Brothel, hostel.
But you made a face at him on Indiana, and he needs rebutting here on the idea.
I think if Indiana lost to Michigan, they would have been out.
I don't think so.
Yes, they would have.
What's weird to me is like...
Yes.
Do you think? Can I ask you a question?
I like them.
Can I ask everybody?
Nebraska, they would have been out too. There's no way they would have made it if they lost one of those games.
Can I ask everybody a question?
Sounded like to people.
I'm going to ask everybody a question now, and it's not. I don't have my own take on this. I'm just curious.
You think there's Hoosier bias? You think there's Indiana Hoosier bias in football? That's crazy.
No. If everybody was telling me the timing of Miami's loss was bad. They lost to Syracuse at the end.
That sounds like a gobble with this.
Turkey.
Like a turkey gobbling.
Throw some of the Hawkins I like him from last week in the mix.
I like him.
There it is.
So everyone says that the timing of Miami's loss to Syracuse was bad.
I like him.
And that overlooks the timing of Alabama's loss to Oklahoma is bad, but I guess because it happened a week earlier, it's less bad.
Georgia.
I like them.
That's all the argument.
But they beat them in September. So if Miami had a loss in September, I guess it would have been fine. So
if they had a good win, it would have been fine.
Here's my point. Here's my question for you guys. Switch the weeks. Say Miami's loss to Syracuse happens the week that Alabama lost at Oklahoma, and this past week Alabama loses to Oklahoma the way that they did, which is 24-3.
Who has the better win, though?
Do you think Alabama gets in if the most recent thing that you saw, not the thing that you saw 2 weeks ago, the most recent thing that you saw from them was 24-3 losing to Oklahoma, and you just swap the order of Miami's loss to Syracuse to the win against Wake?
I like them.
If you lost to Syracuse and Georgia Tech earlier in the season, you would have already been out of the ACC race. You would have been ranked in the top 15 going into the last week of the season.
Do you think Alabama gets in if the last thing that you saw this
It's a good question.
Talking about Miami a month ago instead of 4 days ago.
Is this my answer?
It's a good question.
I'm asking if the last thing that you saw from Alabama was the only other game that they played before that against a FBS team, if they lost 24-3 and that was your last impression on the season of Alabama, do you think that they get in?
Miami would have been out the second that their ACC championship game hopes were dashed when they lost their second game of the conference in the season.
I am done with this bit.
Well, but it is the ending argument is don't lose to Syracuse and Georgia Tech. And
right, but don't lose to Oklahoma doesn't exist, which is the benefit of the doubt that Lane Kiffin seems to think he's not getting. Brother, you got it. You just weren't good enough to be the one to get it.
So let me get to this Mike Elko sound because I I was saying most of the season that Texas A&M had a team that had 3 defensive linemen who might be taken in the top 100, and they could wreck something like an SEC with that kind of defensive line. But let's just hear from Mike Elko, who has been a good quote this season, which is not what I was expecting, talking about where he finds himself in the middle of the mediocrity of the SEC.
There's reports that some states have been able to already go into rev share deals with their student athletes. I know the law here prohibits that still. Was that at all any challenges with that? And how do you see that shaping things up moving forward?
No, that wasn't a challenge for us at all. I think we're in a really good spot, and I don't think NIL played any role. NIL didn't play any role in our inability to land anyone. Maybe our NIL plan didn't allow us to get involved with certain kids or to continue to recruit certain kids or to match a number that might have allowed us to land certain kids. But that was more of an internal plan than it was a lack of resources. I think you have to be really intelligent when you manage this thing, how you manage it for the culture of your program. You see some of these insane freshman deals. I would just like to know how the upperclassmen in their program feel when these freshmen come in making 5 times more than the returning starter. And so I think that will be a really interesting dynamic for a lot of these programs when these freshmen show up on campus.
I see Hawkins and Chris Cody and Mike Ryan nodding vigorously. And I got to be honest with you, to hear a coach talk that way about the finances of college football is so brazen that I still can't get used to it.
Crazy.
I'm still not used to a coach talking about the business that cleanly, but he ain't wrong.
No, I mean, you could probably play that clip and then make a callback to the Stephen A. Smith situation, right? Because that is economics of anything.
I like him.
Not that callback. What are we doing here?
I forgot who that was, but then Chris reminded me of who it was that you said you liked.
People tend to forget what happened with Jaden Rashada. It'll be curious to see. I'm not here to rain on the parade. We'll all figure it out. Maybe Underwood's an incredible investment. It certainly got vibes going good, and they had a good recruiting class thereafter because they had a lot of positive momentum. Mm-hmm. At that position, I'd rather keep my powder dry for something a little bit more proven because we know that the portal's going to be popping this year. Mm-hmm. And as Coach Elko spoke to, it does have a residual effect to the rest of your roster. It's going to be hard to manage.
And sometimes you go all in on a quarterback, but you still lose to Syracuse and you don't make the playoffs.